Welcome to our journey through the lives of some of the most influential biblical figures. Join me as we delve into their hearts and minds, discovering timeless wisdom that can illuminate our own paths to happiness. King David, a shepherd boy who became a legendary king, knew both triumph and tragedy. His life was a tapestry woven with threads of love, loss, war, and peace.
My faith wasn't a shield against hardship, but a source of strength in the midst of it. I stumbled, I fell, I made grave mistakes, yet I always returned to God, seeking forgiveness and finding redemption.
David's life reminds us that happiness isn't the absence of suffering, but the presence of faith, even in the darkest of times. Solomon, David's son, inherited a mighty kingdom. Driven by a thirst for knowledge, he amassed vast wealth and explored the limits of human experience.
I realized that true happiness couldn't be found in earthly pursuits alone. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding.
Solomon discovered that lasting joy wasn't found in having it all, but in aligning his life with God's purpose. His journey reminds us that true fulfillment comes from seeking something deeper, something that transcends the material world. Elijah, a prophet of unwavering faith, lived in a time of spiritual turmoil. He stood against kings and challenged the wicked, calling the people back to God.
On Mount Carmel I called down fire from heaven, a display of divine might that left no doubt about the true God. Yet in the aftermath of this victory, I found myself alone, exhausted and filled with despair. I fled to the wilderness, seeking refuge in solitude. It was there in the silence that God met me, not in the thunder or the wind, but in a still, small voice.
Elijah's story teaches us that true strength lies not just in confronting evil, but also in seeking solace and guidance in the presence of the divine. The prophet Isaiah lived in a time of great upheaval and uncertainty. He witnessed the sins of his people, the corruption of leaders, and the threat of invasion.
I saw a future where God's justice would prevail, where swords would be beaten into plowshares, and lions would lie down with lambs. My prophecies offered a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, God's love and redemption could prevail.
Isaiah's life teaches us that true happiness is found not in ignoring the world's problems, but in holding fast to the belief that a brighter future is possible. It reminds us that we are called to be instruments of God's peace, to work for justice and reconciliation. King Hezekiah inherited a kingdom on the brink of collapse. Surrounded by enemies and facing overwhelming odds, he could have easily given in to despair.
I tore down the idols, cleansed the temple, and called my people back to worshipping the one true God. My reforms weren't just religious. They were an act of defiance, a declaration that Judah would not bow to foreign gods or earthly powers. When faced with a terrifying siege, I prayed fervently, seeking God's intervention, and God answered, miraculously delivering Judah from our enemies.
Hezekiah's life teaches us that true happiness is found not in resigning ourselves to our circumstances, but in actively seeking God's will and trusting in His power to deliver us. These stories offer profound insights into the nature of happiness. They remind us that true happiness is deeply connected to our faith and living according to divine principles. Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey. May the stories of these biblical figures guide you towards a life filled with purpose, meaning, and lasting joy.